2024. And to finish it up, we're going to be doing the specials. So, yeah, I saved the best to last. Although not all Thomas specials are good. Some of them are good, some of them are just bad. But you probably know what I mean. So, yeah. And I don't really know what to say, to be honest. So, let's get started. Alright, so the first special we have is the one that's well, it's not really a special, it's more of a movie, and it's the only theatrical Thomas film so far. That is until the Thomas and Friends movie by Mark Forster. And here we have Thomas and the Magic Railroad. Yeah, the most controversial Thomas and Friends, well, one of them of all movies of all time. So yeah, this movie has a lot of mixed reviews, and you probably know why. So yeah, so here's the front, spine, and the back, and the special features are interactive menus, access, and trailer. And here we have the disc. Sorry. There's so yeah, Thomas and the Magic Railroad. I it's hard to say, but this movie is I guess it's hard to describe, to be honest, but I guess I kind of like this movie. I don't know, it's just too nostalgic for me because I remember watching this movie a lot when I was younger, and I have a lot of fond memories with it, but I'm not going to list all the problems with it, but a lot of other Thomas fans have addressed it already, so I'm not going to bother doing it because they give more better details than I would any day. But for me, the movie is okay. It's not my favorite Thomas movie per se, but back then it was. But nowadays it's not. I mean, I'm not saying the movie's bad, but it has a lot to be desired. So yeah. And here's the next Thomas and Friends movie, and it's the first special, and it's Calling All Engines. Yep, another controversial Thomas movie. So yeah. So here's the front, spine, and the back. And the bonus features are exclusive new song, deleted scenes, and more. So yeah. And here's the disc, as you can see here. So, Calling All Engines. Sorry about that. Um, this movie is quite interesting. Like, the movie's really hit and miss. The reason why it's hit because it does a lot better. It's I don't know. It was released during the 60th anniversary. That's something, and we got to see a lot of models in it, so that was pretty cool. And the title says "Calling All Engines," right? But it only focuses on half of the characters. Like, it never really bugged me when I was a kid, but nowadays I wish more characters appeared in this. Like, the title says "Calling All Engines," so technically it should have been about every single character. You know, like, you probably know what I'm talking about. Like, they could have used a lot more characters to help with the airport and all that, but yeah. And the message about steamies and diesels working together is actually really good. Like, I wish this was more of, I wish the prejudice side between steamies and diesels state came to an end after this, but sadly it didn't, and it got worse after that. But yeah, so Calling All Engines is a well, I'd say it's okay. It's not my favorite Thomas movie, but yeah. And here's the next Thomas movie, and it's the first one that I actually like, and it's The Great Discovery. So yeah, so here's the front, spine, and the back. And here is the disc. So The Great Discovery. This one's actually really good. And this is also the final ever Thomas model production. Well, not really, but it's the last full models. Like, it's the last one to use the clay faces. Well, not really, but entirely. They would still show the clay faces sometimes in season 12, but most of the time it's just CGI. And it's the last time we get to see the model humans, who were figures and stuff, and they were replaced by CGI people in season 12. And yeah. And this one introduces Stanley, which unfortunately doesn't get a lot of screen time after this movie. Like, he is a fan favorite character, but the same way as Rosie, but for some reason, Hit Entertainment didn't really do a lot with him. I mean, he still appeared in the show, but he usually appeared in the background. Sometimes he gets a speaking role here or there, but other than that, he just appears in the background. Saying Stanley's a bad character, like, I still like him, but I wish he got an episode to himself. But yeah. And this movie has a lot of good stuff. Like, I think this is a lot better than The Great Discovery, and unlike The Great Discovery, the learning segments are not part of the main feature. I mean, there are songs in the movie, but at least they have a purpose this time instead of the Great Discovery. Like, the Unlucky Tug explains a lot better than I can. So you can watch his retrospective of season 11, the Great Discovery, if you want. But I'm not saying much. So yeah. So overall, The Great Discovery is a really good Thomas movie. And here's the next one. It's Hero of the Rails. Yep, the first full CGI animated production for Thomas and Friends. And yeah, here's the front, spine, and the back. No, there's no bonus features on this. I mean, they are, but they're not listed in the back. And the bonus features, and this is the first DVD to feature the Down at the Station Engines quiz bonus features. Pretty. So yeah, Hero of the Rails. Like, when this first came out, everyone was like very surprised at it. Like, we were really that surprised that it was that good, and we wish the elements from this carried over to season 13. Like, no one is out of character in this. Everyone is completely in character, and I wish this was the renaissance for Thomas. Like, they had a lot of potential with the future of the CGI, which they did, but that didn't happen until much later. So yeah, and yeah, it introduces a lot of great new characters like Hero, Victor, and I guess Kevin. Which in the early seasons, Kevin was more of a goofball, but as the series went on, he became more likable. And Spencer was a great villain. Like, he wasn't actually a villain, but the fact that they chose him of all characters was pretty cool. So yeah, I know this movie's not perfect. Like, does have a few flaws, but other than that, this movie's really good. And the animation, all those years later, is still really good. Like, this movie's not perfect, like I said, but When it was first released back then, it was amazing. And this movie's still good to this day. So yeah, so that was Hero of the Rails. And here we have the next Thomas movie, and yeah, Misty Island Rescue. Probably the worst Thomas and Friends movie. I wouldn't say it's the worst of it, but this movie's still pretty bad. So yeah, here's the front, spine, and the back. And and the bonus features are Misty Island Rescue music, sing along song, life on at the railway, um, exclusive game and exclusive game including a bonus song, which is the Sir Topham Hatt song from season 14. And here we have the disc. So yeah, Misty Island Rescue. There's a lot of problems with this movie, but I'm not explaining them all because we'd be here all day. But if I have to pick something that completely annoyed me the most, it'd probably be the fact that why does this movie need to happen? Like, seriously. Like, I get they're building a Sodor search and rescue center, but why couldn't you store them in a somewhere in a shunting yard or a in case something urgent needs to be built? Like, why couldn't they do that? Oh wait, they had to have Thomas go on a boat to Misty Island so the story can happen. So that's why it exists. But I wouldn't really hate this movie if and another problem with this movie is that the movie keeps going back and forth to Sodor and Misty Island. Like choose one of them. Doing two of them is just it just wastes the movie. Like have like the middle of the movie, Thomas being on Misty Island, and then maybe during the near end of the movie, Thomas and his friends find a way back to Sodor, and they find this tunnel, and I. But if anyone ever did a rewrite of this movie, then they'd probably do a much better job than I would do. So yeah. So overall, Misty Island Rescue is pretty bad. Like the animation's still good. Like I'll give them a plus for that, and the concept for the Sodor Search and Rescue Center is pretty good. But I wish they had it like built prior to the movie. You know, like in let's say Heroes of the Storm for Fireman Sam. Like they didn't do the grand opening at like the end of the movie. Like they did it like during near the middle of the film. Like I wish they did the same here, and have the Sodor search and rescue team to find Thomas with the finished search and rescue center. Like that would have been a lot more fun, and have Captain have a much more larger role. Like Captain's really barely a character in the show, so if they ever did a rewrite, then have Captain take a big part in it, and Harold as well. Like they're on the front covers and they don't do anything in the movie. Well, I guess Harold did do something at the beginning, but that's nothing important. So overall, Misty Island Rescue is pretty bad, if not awful. But if you like this movie, then that's fine. More points to you. Hi, Red's World Cartoon Studios, and here's the next movie, and it's Day of the Diesels. Yep, another pretty bad Thomas and Friends movie, and this one has a slipcase, which that's kind of cool. Like I didn't have it in the slipcase before, but a friend of mine gave it to me, so I'll give credit to him. So yeah, I think I might have had the slipcase back then, but Yeah. So here's the front, sides, and the back. And the bonus features are down at the station, diesel engines, a guide to steamies and diesels, which that's actually really good, by the way. Guess who? Sing along song Day of the Diesels, and hear the engines coming. So, yeah. Let me just get out the slipcase and we'll have a look at the disc. And here it is. Alright, so Day of the Diesels. Yep, another flawless Thomas and Friends movie. And what was used? Like someone did a rewrite of this a few months ago, and that one, I hate to say this, but that one is a lot better than the Day of the Diesels we actually got. Like, imagine if that was the Day of the Diesels we got, and not have Percy misunderstanding Thomas, not hanging out with him as much. Like the fan made Day of the Diesels we was released a few months ago. Imagine that was the Day of the Diesels we got. Like, I don't know about you, but I think it was the best rewrite of Day of the Diesels I've seen, and probably be the only one, to be honest. Like, Day of the Diesels was meant to be a lot more darker and more threatening, but Hit Entertainment just decided, you know what? No, we're not gonna include this because they want to use it to kids movie excuse. Like, come on, Hit Entertainment. You've did a lot more darker stuff back then as well. Like Fireman Sam has a few dark elements as well. Like it's a show about fire safety and it's a very dangerous job and it's a life and death situation. So I mean this movie does have a bit of a dark theme, like the opening, for example. Like that scene was taken really seriously. Like nothing was flanderized or no, it was very mature. Like it was very suspenseful. Like you wouldn't know what was gonna happen, and if Belle didn't appear a lot more sooner, then who knows what could have happened. But even with that, this movie is still pretty bad. And another flaw I have with it is Diesel 10. Like Diesel 10 was a badass in Thomas and the Magic Railroad, but here he's just more of this pathetic villain that just wants to get this new diesel works that's just been abandoned. And he wants Percy to tell Thomas, to tell the Fat Controller to get the new diesel works. And he decides to take over the steam works, which that came out of nowhere. And yeah, the plot of this movie is very confusing. And in the end, Diesel 10 starts getting upset because the Fat Controller shouted at him. And that was probably the scene that I hated the most. Like, Diesel 10 would never tolerate that. But they have to make him upset because, as I quote, kids movie crap. Yeah, I know it's a kids movie, but that's no excuse to make the main antagonist to be a whimpering coward. Like, if this was Magic Railroad Diesel 10, then he would just snap at Sir Tom and he'd say it, and he would just run away or something like that. I don't know. But the rewrite is a lot better than this one. So yeah. So overall, Dave the Diesels was not as good as Misty Island Rescue, but it wasn't as annoying as Misty Island Rescue. I can tell you that. But this movie is still pretty crap. But again, if you like it, I respect your opinion. And here's the next movie, and it's Blue Mountain Mystery. Yep, the first good Thomas and Friends movie we got since Hero of the Rails. So yeah, here's the front, spine, and the back. And the bonus features are a guide of the narrow and standard gauge engines, which is another really good segment. Four fantastic Guess Who puzzles, which are obviously the narrow gauge engines. No, I mean the new characters for the movie. And we have two new sing along songs, Blue Mountain Mystery and Working Together. And here we have the disc. So yeah, Blue Mountain Mystery. Yeah, this one's a lot. This one is a big improvement to the franchise. This was I know this was before Andrew Brenner took over, but imagine if this was the start of the Brenner era, and it kind of is. You want to know why? Because Andrew Brenner was the what you call it, the script editor for the movie. Like, if it wasn't for him, then this movie would probably suck. But thankfully, he edited the script, and if there were any plot holes that Sharon Miller made, then Andrew Brenner would probably cut them out. So credit to him. And this is probably the best Sharon Miller project that we've gone to date. Like, I can't believe how dark the story is. Like, Thomas isn't actually the main character. Like, the main focus of the movie is about Luke and Victor. And I really like how this movie goes. Like, it's not coded down at all. Like, it's taken way too seriously. And I love it. Like, it's a life and death situation. Like, Luke actually worries about himself being sent away after he knocked Victor over the sea. And that's why he hides at the Blue Mountain Quarry, because the little engines know, but we don't. So I really like how this movie went. And the new characters are actually really good. Maybe with the exception of Merrick. Like, he's not a bad character, but he doesn't really do much. Neither does Winston. But Luke is more of the big one. And Owen did something in the climax, but yeah. But I like how this movie was structured. No negatives at all. Well, maybe with the exception of the narrow gauge engines running away from Thomas after he betrayed their trust, but I can let that go. So yeah, so no, Blue Mountain Mystery gets a 10 out of 10. It's that good. And here's the next movie, and it's King of the Railway. Yep, the start of the Brenner era. So yeah, here's the front, spine, and the back. And the bonus features are four fantastic Guess Who puzzles, sing along song, working together again, searching everywhere, and it's going to be a great day. And here's the disc. So, King of the Railway. Maybe not as good as Blue Mountain Mystery, but this movie's still good nonetheless. Like, I like Stephen and Millie in this. Like, they were really good. And Sir Robert Normanby. But Connor and Kaylin, on the other hand, I do like those characters, but they don't really do much in the film. Like, I don't really think there was a point of adding them in it. Like, they should have saved them for, like, season 17 or something, because that was the special that was released prior to the season, so it would have made a bit more sense to introduce those two into the season, but they did have a purpose in the end, like bringing the people up to the castle and stuff, but yeah. And this movie fixed a lot of problems that came out prior to this. Like, all the characters, well, almost, are completely back in character again. So yeah. And they even brought back Jack. Like, it's a shame they didn't bring back the rest of the pack, but it's still nice that we actually saw Jack after all these years. So yeah. And Steven was a great character. And yeah, don't really have much. And the animation was may not have been the best, but it would get better over time. Trust me. But yeah, This movie may not be as good as Blue Mountain Mystery, but this is still a good watch. If you haven't checked this movie out, then go ahead if you have the time. So, yeah, here's the next movie, and it's Tale of the Brave, another good movie. So, yeah, here's the front, spine, and the back. And the bonus features are Guess Who puzzles, two fantastic new sing along songs, which are Monsters Everywhere, and I think Let's Be Brave. And we have Mr. Perkins' postcard and story time. And here's the disc. So yeah, Tale of the Brave. Actually, I like this. I like this movie a lot more than King of the Railway. To be honest, like, I'm not saying King of the Railway was a bad movie, but this movie actually improves a lot of stuff. Like the animation's a lot more detailed than it was before, and the returnees in this were actually really good. And the fact that they brought back the clay pits was really fitting because, yeah, what do you expect? There's a lot of mysteries around the clay pits, so you wouldn't really know what was going to happen. And the fact that all three of these characters, like Thomas, Percy, and James, get the spotlight is really fascinating. Like, the first half of the movie is about Thomas, then the second half is about James, then Percy, and then in the end, all the characters get in at the same time, which I find really fascinating. Like, this movie's not perfect, but what it was, this one's a good watch. And I definitely recommend watching it if you have the time. And Gator was a really good character as well. Like, I know he doesn't really appear anymore, but if they ever brought him back, then that'd be nice. And the other new characters may not get enough screen time, but yeah. And I wish Reg got a bit more screen time as well. Like, the only time we saw him in the movie was when James was collecting scrap, and that was it. After that scene, we never see Reg again in the movie. Like, it would have been nice if there was a scene where James went to the scrapyard and asked Reg to make a scrap monster. Like, that would have been nice, but unfortunately they didn't do that. That might have been intentional, but I guess we'll never know. So, overall, Tale of the Brave is a pretty good movie. And here's the next movie, and this one is a big surprise to us all, and it's The Adventure Begins. Yep, the movie that was meant to celebrate the 70th anniversary of Thomas and Friends. So yeah, we're starting to get into the good Thomas movies now. That is until Journey Beyond Sodor. But yeah. So here's the front, spine, and the back. And yes, I still have the Australian copy. Which, yeah. I'm still trying to find the UK copy, but I don't know if I will anytime soon. And the bonus features are bonus episode, Old Reliable Edward, and four fantastic sing-along songs, which are obviously remakes of He's a Really Useful Engine, Troublesome Trucks, and what else? I think there's two songs in the movie. Don't know if I'm missing one. Yeah, I think that's it. Um, yeah, there's only two songs in the movie. That's all I could think of. And here's the disc. And under here we have a leaflet for a we have a manual for over hit entertainment DVDs. Like, we also have DVDs for Fireman Sam, Mike the Knight, and Bob the Builder. We also have the other Thomas and Friends specials. The adventure begins. The fact that this even exists is bizarre. And not in the bad way, but this movie really surprised a lot of people. Like, none of us expected to get a remake of the first two Railway series books. Like, they didn't need to make this movie, but they did it anyway because back then they really cared about what Thomas was, and they didn't sugarcoat this at all. Like, this movie's not perfect, but it's still a really good watch overall. And yeah, and the fact that James was in his black livery was really fascinating, and even Thomas in his original livery, like it was never established in the original series or even the Railway series for that matter that when he arrived to Sodor he was in a completely different livery. Like he had this lime green color, and he also had the London Brighton South Coast initials on his sides, and the number 70 on his coal bunker, which I find that really fascinating. Like they were probably gonna do a different color for Thomas, but him with a lime green livery was a good choice. And the only nitpick I have with this movie is the fact that Henry's not in his old shape. But oh well, maybe they didn't have the time to do that, make a new model for Henry. But other than that, this movie's still really good. So yeah, that was The Adventure Begins. And here we have the next Thomas and Friends movie, and it's a fan favorite, Sodor's Legend of the Lost Treasure. Yet the second Thomas and Friends movie that came out during the 70th anniversary. So yeah, here's the front, spine, and the back. And the bonus features are 4 Guess Who puzzles, sing along song, we make a team together, and never overlook a little engine. And here's the disc. So Sodor's Legend of the Lost Treasure is probably the best Thomas and Friends movie without question. Like this movie's not perfect, but this movie is still really good. And the fact that they had the budget to bring back all the classic Thomas characters, like they didn't bring back every single character, of course, but they brought back Donald, Douglas, Daisy, and Alfie, Oliver, Max, and Monty from the pack in this movie. Like, it was bizarre. And even they decided to have the balls to bring Rex, Mike, and Bert to the TV series for the very first time. And back in 2015, everyone was mind blown by this. Like, when this was when the trailer first came out, everybody went nuts over it. Like they kept talking about the new characters, the returning characters, and and the miniature engines appearing on in the TV series for the first time. It was bizarre. Like, and, yeah, and I'll never forget the time that I actually saw this in the cinemas. And this was the first ever Thomas movie that I saw. And from my experience, I'm really proud of it. And this wouldn't be the only Thomas movie I saw, thankfully. Like, I saw the final three as well. But we'll get to them. So, yeah. So, Sodor's Legend of the Lost Treasure is a brilliant masterpiece. And if you haven't seen this movie, then check it out if you have the time. And here's the next Thomas and Friends movie, and it's The Great Race. So yeah, here's the front, spine, and the back. And the bonus features are Will You Won't You, streamlining, full of surprises, and You Can Only Be You music videos, Guess Who, 8 Guess Who puzzles, and meet the new Meet the Railway Show contenders. And this will also be the last Thomas and Friends DVD to feature the Guess Who puzzles. So yeah, and here's the disc. We also have a leaflet for other Thomas and Friends products. So yeah. So the Great Race. I actually really like this movie. Like, I know it has a few flaws, but I've seen other mess up Thomas and Friends movie, and this one is actually a guilty pleasure for me. And I remember seeing this back in 2016 when it first came out, and I loved it. Like, I was a big fan of The Great Race when it first came out, and I kind of still am to this very day. Like, this movie has a lot of characters in it, and this has the most new characters of any Thomas and Friends movie. Well, this and Big World Big Adventures. I mean, there isn't like a lot of new characters, but there's only 12 new characters in this. And the fact that they brought the Flying Scotsman in this was a really good choice. Like, it would make sense because that was the year he was back in Steam. So, and this also tied into the Rio 2016 Olympic Games. So, really fitting year to release the Great Race. And this is probably one of my favorite movies of 2016. And yeah, this movie has a lot of mixed reviews, but in my opinion, I don't mind it. I mean, there may be a few nitpicks here or there, but other than that, they're just pretty minor. They don't ruin my taste for the movie. But if you don't like The Great Race, then that's fine. I can handle your opinion. So yeah, so that was The Great Race. And here we have the next Thomas and Friends movie, and it's Journey Beyond Sodor. So yeah, probably the last good Thomas and Friends movie until because after this everything was just a shithole. But we'll get to them. So yeah. So here's the front, sides, and the back. And this one also comes with a slipcase. And it also came with a slipcase when I first got it. And here we have the disc. And we have a leaflet for other Thomas products. So, Journey Beyond Sonor. I actually really like this movie. Like, I understand why people may not like it that much, but it's not as bad as Big World Big Adventures. But when it first came out, it was hit and miss. Hit because of the story, I guess, and miss because of the bouncing. Like when we first saw when people first saw the bouncing back in 2017, everyone was just like, "Oh God, no! Why did you include the bouncing?" But for me, honestly, it may have bugged me a bit when I first saw it, but after a while, I just got used to it. Like, I know this movie's not perfect and it does have a few flaws, but the story itself is really interesting. Like, this movie is about Thomas and James, and James is actually the star of the movie. Like, I wish the movie was more about him than Thomas. Like, if Percy got a starring role with Dave the Diesels, then why couldn't James get the spotlight here? And he was more of a main character in Tale of the Brave. So if he was the main attraction here, then this would have been the second movie that he'd be in the lead role. So and have Thomas as the secondary character. So yeah, and the new characters in this movie are good. Well, mostly Merlin because he's more of the rememberable new characters, and the other guys. Uh, but Beresford, on the other hand, who even remembers that character? And I am surprised that they brought him back. That the fact that they brought that in All Engines Go, they brought him back of all characters in the movie. Like they could have brought back Merlin in All Engines Go, but no, they just decided to bring back Beresford because Mattel probably thought that Beresford was a fan favorite character. Well, guess what? He wasn't. Wait, did I read the bonus features on this? No, I don't think I did. And we have the songs which are Who's Thomas, Honest Town, Can't Do Anything. The most important thing is being so yeah. So the bonus feature on this. And this movie was pretty rushed because this was being produced during the bankruptcy of Arc Productions. So half the movie is made by Arc, while the other half is made by Jamfield. So yeah, it's a long story, but I'll keep it short. So overall, Journey Beyond Sodor is another guilty pleasure. But again, if you hate this movie, then I can handle your opinion. So yeah. And here we have the next Thomas movie, and oh boy, this. And most so yeah, here's the front, sides, and the back. And we have the bonus features, which are meet the characters, which are Nia, Ace, Bo, and Kwaku. And 5 new sing-along songs, which are Where in the World is Thomas, Wake Up, Free and Easy, We're Friends, and Sometimes You Make a Friend. So yeah. Even though this movie is right out bad, but the songs in this make up for it. And here's the disc. And here's my ticket when I saw the movie when it first came out back in 2018. I know I'd usually say I'd regret seeing it, but honestly, I couldn't care less. So yeah, here we have Leaflet and Thomas Land Leaflet. So yeah. So big world, big adventures. Oh boy. This is where my opinions get a bit tricky. Yeah. My opinions on this movie now, I hate it. Like, I rewatched it a few years ago, but after seeing it, I don't blame the fans for getting upset. Like, this movie has a lot of problems in this. I mean, there are a few good things in this as well, but mostly the movie is just plain out bad. Like, Thomas literally just leaves Sodor without telling anyone, and everybody starts getting worried. And in the end of the movie, instead of getting mad and frustrated for Thomas leaving without anyone telling him, they just decide to throw a welcome back party for him. Well, guess what? It don't matter because Thomas would just do it again after this. So yeah. And the new characters in this movie are pretty forgettable. Like the only one that I actually like is Nia here. Like only in this movie she's good. Like I'm not saying Nia's a bad character, but the fact that she reasons with Thomas is actually pretty good. Like Thomas is more of a prick in this movie, but Nia, she has a soul. And for Ace on the other hand, oh god, he could just go fuck himself for all I care. We don't talk about Ace. He's just a dickhead and just brainwashed Thomas to go on this stupid adventure around the world. And Young Bao is just there. Like, I'm not saying Young Bao is a bad character, which he is pretty cool, but in the movie, he's just plastered on this. Like, Young Bao's not really the main Young Bao's not really the main focus of this, and The poster for the movie is just bare. Like, it just has a generic nitrogen promo of Thomas, and nothing really happens, to be honest. So, yeah. But I'm not going to explain all the problems with this movie because we'd be here all day. But again, if you like this movie, I respect your opinion. But there are a lot more better things to do with Big World Big Adventures. And there are, which you probably know what I mean. So, Big World Big Adventures is pretty bad. Don't watch it. It's going to waste your time. Watch the Over Thomas and Friends movie. Just skip this one ahead. And finally, we have the last DVD of the collection. And this is the latest Thomas and Friends DVD to come out. And it's Race for the Sodor Cup. And this is the first and so far only, and probably will be the only All Engines Go DVD to come out. And yeah, Race for the Sodor Cup. So yeah, here's the front, sides, and the back. And the bonus features are 3 new sing-along songs, When I Go Fast, the training song, and Look It's Us. So yeah. And here we have the disc. So, Race for the Sodor Cup. Honestly, I don't care about this movie. I really don't. Nothing happens in this. It's just a nothing, boring filler movie. And I'm glad I actually skipped this in cinemas. Like, I had no intentions of seeing this version of Thomas. And when this first came out, when it was first released in cinemas, everybody was like, what have they done to Thomas? Like, why did they update his design? What was wrong with the old one? And honestly, I do not blame them for getting upset. And the fact that they didn't cancel All Engines Go just, I guess we'll just have to get used to it now. Like, this is the new Thomas now, so whether we like it or not, this design of Thomas is staying. I know we want the original one to come back, but I'm afraid that's not going to happen. Maybe with the Mark Forster movie, but other than that, it's probably not going to happen. So yeah. And I am surprised that they didn't release a Mystery at Lookout Mountain on this. Like, again, that's a nothing movie, but I still would have gotten it regardless. And there is a new Thomas and Friends movie coming out, which is The Christmas Letter Express. And I can't believe I'm actually saying this, but I'm actually looking forward to that. Like, that movie does have potential to be good. And the fact that it's based around Christmas absolutely amazes me. Like, why couldn't they do that with the original Thomas movies? That we'll never know. But overall, this movie is just a shallow miss. So don't bother watching this movie. Watch the other Thomas and Friends if you have the time. So yeah. So that does it, everyone. That concludes my Thomas and Friends DVD collection for 2024. And it's not the end of the Thomas and Friends celebration mark. Oh no. Next year we're going to be celebrating the 80th anniversary, and why am I going to be doing that, if you may ask? Well, we'll just have to wait and see next year. I might do another DVD collection, but that's only if I get new DVDs. But for the time being, I'm just going to leave it as it is. So yeah. I can't believe how fast this collection went. Like, it literally felt like that it started yesterday. It really does. And the fact that we're actually finished it now, and the fact that this video is nearly an hour long, because I've been briefly describing the movies and stuff, it's just absolutely bizarre. So, yeah. Alright, so yeah, that concludes another DVD collection, and the next one will be the Family Guy DVD collection. So stay tuned to that. And when am I going to do it, if you may ask? Well, I might do it probably by nearly at the end of the month, but we'll just have to wait and see how things go. So yeah. So that's all for now. Stay tuned for some more videos coming up soon. And this is me signing off.